Well, I've known Mick Garris since the 1980s. He was the publicist on The Howling, and I followed his career as a writer and a director. He involved me in a show called Masters of Horror, which was, it actually began with a dinner that he has for all of us horror movie directors and writers in LA who happen to be there at any given time, and then we get together for a dinner, and it happens, once a year. And so of course he's got a very wide ranging group of people that he knows. And so he created this TV show, Masters of Horror, which was 1-hour horror episodes directed by people with names and connections to the genre for not much money and not much time, but complete creative freedom. You could do whatever you wanted. And so I did a particularly unsubtle political film for it, and we had a good time.
Masters of Horror, the scariest show on television.
So after that, he felt that he wanted to internationalize it and try to use more directors from other countries. And so he created this anthology film idea, which now has become Nightmare Cinema. And over the years, it's morphed from being a TV series idea to a series of movies, and now it's finally found a home as an actual anthology film in the tradition of Dead of Night and Dr. Terror's House of Horrors and those pictures. And so when he asked me to come aboard, which was, I think, helpful to getting investors and stuff, I said, sure. And I only later thought about, well, what is it I'm going to do?
The Howling.
The festival will be screening a rare print of The Howling. The reason werewolves are so popular is because if you think of the title, I Was a Teenage Werewolf, what is that about? It's about puberty. It's about getting hair in places that you didn't used to have it. And everybody can relate to that. It also goes back a long way. I mean, this whole lupine thing, and it's a sort of a fairy tale image. There's Little Red Riding Hood. There's all those tropes that we refer to in The Howling and other movies. It's an atavistic thing. It's part of our culture, and it's had quite a bit of longevity. I mean, there's werewolves and there's vampires. Vampires have the edge in the sense that I think they may be a little older in terms of the literature, but werewolves are visually right up there. These pictures had to be made fairly quickly, and there was certainly a certain amount of money, and some of it was going to be used for somewhat more spectacular effects on one or two of the other episodes. So I tried to do something I thought was self-contained. And I imagined that what if I just sort of did a Twilight Zone type episode where I've got a story that takes place entirely from one woman's point of view and is about her need to fix her face so that her fiancé will like her more. And so it would basically riff from there. The movie becomes, or the episode becomes progressively crazier as it goes on, because it's told from her point of view, and none of the actions of the other characters make a lick of sense. I mean, they're completely crazy, and she finds herself trapped in this nightmare. So it just seemed like it would be a thing that would be able to be a bridge between the other stories, and would also have a female point of view, which I think is important in the genre.
A journey into a wondrous land whose only boundaries are your imagination.
TV shows are not as much alive and well because it's expensive to produce them, because you can't use the sets over and over again. Every episode has a different set. Now, as far as the movies go, they do have quite a tradition. In the 60s and 70s, the Amicus Company used to make these pictures like Dr. Terror's House of Horrors and Torture Garden and House of Drip Blood, and they had these amazing casts of very well-known people. And they weren't very expensive movies, and people would say, how did they get all those people together for this movie? And it was because the formula is that all you have to do is hire these people for a couple of days, and they only appear in their own story, and then you have this roster of impressive-looking talent, which you get for $1.98 because they're only working for a little while. So this became kind of a trope, and after a while, they made quite a few of these things, and they were all fairly successful. And the downside is that any anthology show or movie has a bunch of stories. Some may be more appealing to a particular audience than others. And so the general run of reviews on those movies it's uneven, because very few of them have all the stories are perfectly pitched on one level. But it's still it's a variety thing, and for people these days who have short attention spans, it seems to be more or less ideal. But there is a difference between the TV ones and the movie ones, because the TV ones tend to be self-contained in half-hour pieces, and the movie ones are a number of them struck together with a linking story. And the linking story, the best one is In Dead of Night in 1945. That's the greatest linking story. And some are good. The Asylum linking story is quite good. Some of them are less good than just sort of an excuse for putting the stories together. But it's a potpourri. I mean, you never know exactly what you're going to get, and that's part of the appeal. I'm often asked, how did you break into the business? And I say, it's completely irrelevant how I broke into the business. It's not the same business. It's nothing to do with the world as it was when I started making movies. I would say today there's a lot more opportunity to be able to actually make something. You can shoot it yourself. You can edit it on your computer. You can finish it to a point where it looks pretty darn good. Then the problem becomes, okay, now how are you going to get anybody to look at it? And that's where festivals like Fantasia come in, because most of the people who make shorts don't have a place to show them except for festivals. And the downside is, of course, there's a zillion shorts at the festival. But the idea that somebody gets to see your work in a theater the way it's meant to be seen, and maybe somebody will take away something about it or about you that will allow you to make a connection, that will let you make something else, you just have to do it. You have to do it. You can't just sit around and hope that somebody's going to discover you. You have to go ahead and do the work. And then hopefully, it'll lead to something.